Yeah, it was recording.
Hey, Bass and Bob members. Wow, we have a great guest tonight. I'm not going to go in. John Upper Avenue's not here, but buy his books. They're awesome.
They are awesome.
Yeah. Two reminders. One, we have the Summer Bass Sizzler coming up this weekend at Elhana. That's the 21st and 22nd at Elhana. Includes full breakfast as well as nice barbecue sandwiches and such for weigh-in. And it's a 2-day tournament. It's a lot of fun. We have a great time. So come on out and see us. And then we have I think 9 openings now on the Missouri Invitational. That's the fishing and golf pro-am deal. 3 days. Maybe get a chance to fish with Marcus or Jeremy Lloyd or James Watson or some of these guys. Hang out with all of us. Rub elbows. We have a great time. That's in November, so we just have a few limited spots. So anyway, so tonight we're very fortunate to have, are you guys done parking cars? Okay. It's only $5 to park. Anyway, the crowd's still gathering, so we have Marcus Sykora here tonight. We have a great crowd. Obviously, what's most important is you Bass and Bob members, 18,000 of you. No, everybody here that comes is important. I shouldn't say it like that, but to be able to hear from Marcus Sykora. Marcus Sykora is one of the best anglers, not only a regional jewel for us, always willing to share his information with us, which is absolutely amazing. A lot of pros around the country just never do that. Marcus is always willing to do that, and he's a national pro. If he didn't own a insurance business and had young kids, this guy would be hammering it. You think you've heard of Jacob Wheeler? well, guess
Getting
what?
over her skis now.
Yeah. Jacob's happy Marcus ain't out there doing what Jacob does every day. But anyway, and I respect that. I mean that with all respect. All-American champion, won, I don't know, I think 12 FLW, BFLs, countless, second in the United States on FLWs. And I mean hundreds of tournaments, hundreds or more of tournaments on Lake of the Ozarks and all throughout the United States. Actually won a tournament. We're so lucky. Marcus and the legend Bill Davenport just won a tournament here yesterday on Lake of the Ozarks with just about 20 pounds. And I'm anxious to hear from Marcus a few things. What was that? Everybody wants to know what that bite was yesterday because we got tournaments coming up. But also as we move into September, what's that bite going to be? Is that going to change very much? And then what makes you so successful? There's always a difference between a winning team and a team that comes in second, or they're just in the middle of the pack like me. There's maybe the World Series champions. There's something that differentiates them from coming in second. There's something that differentiates a second place NFL team in the Super Bowl or whatever than it does the rest of the pack. You have that as it relates to fishing, and I think we'd all like to know a lot more about that too.
Sure.
What that looks like to you. So let's start off with your win yesterday. Congratulations and thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks Bob. Thanks everybody. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for everybody out there, Bass and Bob Nation. Bass and Bob, we've always said is kind of the glue that kind of hold this whole entire fraternal order together. I think, what people don't realize in this market area, if you've never traveled outside of it in the fishing world, is what an unbelievable special thing we have here. I mean, I think we have a higher level of camaraderie. I think we have a higher level of respect for each other, and I think we have a higher level of believe it or not, wanting to do what you like to do versus maybe what somebody else does. There's so much talent here in the Midwest as far as people. If you really want to learn, some of the best structure fishermen in the world are right here. Some of the best shallow water fishermen in the world are right here, and somewhere in between is where you'll kind of find your strengths and the seasonal patterns that you look for. So a lot of credit to all the Bass and Bob stuff, because that's, like I said, that's the glue that holds together. That's why we're doing this right here, right now. I guess, yeah, so yesterday, got to spend a great day with Bill. Bill's been like a father to me. So He was always the kid when I was growing up in the little town of Waynesville, Missouri, that he always had the brand new truck and the brand new boat, and I loved to fish, and that was the most exciting thing. You would stop doing whatever you're doing when you see him drive down the highway because you knew that that was the guy. So a little bit about yesterday. A lot of the credit goes to Bill. I'd say, as a matter of fact, I'd say all the credit goes to Bill. He has been, you know, with summer and Lake of the Ozarks and my day job, we've been so unbelievably busy. So I haven't really had time to go fishing, and Bill basically found them. And what you'll realize, if you don't know already, is the key is not what do you use, the key is not what's your electronics, the key is not anything other than how do you find them. How do you find them? If you find them, they will bite whatever you throw in there. Now, there's certain baits I think that are better than others, and there's certain baits to find them and things like that. Maybe we can talk about that. But you know, Bill put in the sweat equity, and he went out there and he fished, you know, 3 or 4 days a week. And you know, I'd call him, say, how'd it go today? It was terrible, I caught one. How'd it go? It was terrible, I caught 2. How'd it go today? Well, I think I may have found a spot. How'd it go? Yeah. So it's like, you know, the funny thing about it is like a lot of times people see us winning, right? We're winning. But what a lot of people, well, we've been good at getting lucky. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the work that goes into it in order to create it. And the saying that I've always said for years, if you know me, is the harder I work, the luckier I get. And I can see that in my life, whether it's working on being the best husband, or working on being the best father, or working on being the best bass tournament fisherman, or working to be the best State Farm agent. It's all about input and how much you're willing to give to whatever it is you're looking for. So keep that in mind as you always go through here. It's really, as we all know, or hopefully have learned in life, it's about doing things for other people. So but it's fun when you do that, because when you're working for something, because in fishing, to me, it's the only place that I can kind of go and get away from everything. You know, it's the escape from the standard stuff. I'm not calling, you know, I've got 3, 4 messages to call people back. I've got this situation going on. I got all these distractions in life, and I call them distractions not in a negative connotation, but just for the true definition of there are things that kind of your brain gathers around. And fishing's the one place that I can go where I can shut everything off. I'm thinking about this cast, next cast, faster, deeper, slower, different area of the lake. I mean, those are the things that always have just been part of my fabric of my love of this thing, you know. And then you get the competitive factor, right? So, we probably all at some level played some level of sports, and so did I. And it's just like you can be competitive in it, and then, oh, by the way, you get bragging rights because I caught all these big ones. Look at these pictures. And then you go, oh, by the way, you're going to pay me to do it. And so it's like, that's pretty unbelievable if you get all those things kind of wrapped up into the same canvas of things. But going back to this weekend, had an awesome time. The weather was perfect. Boat traffic was not terrible. You know, Bill spent a lot of time fishing and has found some fish. And he found 3 or 4 different little cubbies. And we would just kind of, you know, circle through them, maybe try them early in the morning, and the timing was off, we felt, so maybe we try them again later in the middle of the day, and then the timing was off, and then maybe we try them again later in the afternoon. And that's really a big key where I think a lot of people kind of miss the boat in the whole like tournament fishing world, right? I mean, there's fishing and then there's tournament fishing, and what I'm talking about right now is tournament fishing. In the tournament fishing world side of things, the most difficult decision you can make is the next decision, right? Do we abandon these and go over there? Do we come back? When we come back, what time do we come back? When we come back, what do we throw? Do we got to set up on a different angle? Do we got to do all these different things? And that timing piece is unbelievably critical. And then, you know, how many times are you going to stay with them? So if they don't bite in the morning, will they bite in the middle of the day? If they don't bite in the middle of the day, will they bite in the afternoon? Well, I can tell you that I've taken a lot of trophies home because I've hung with them. And maybe my last cast, I made the last cull of the day. But I can also tell you there's been a lot of times that I've went home banging my head up against the steering wheel, go, why didn't I just scrap it all and start over? And that to me is that's part of the allure of this, right? It's a chess match that you're playing with something that you can't see or get any feedback on except for what you're catching. And so that's really, really a big part of that strategy is timing. So, you know, if you know that there's 4 or 5 places that are really, really good, maybe just work through those 4 or 5 places, you know, and they don't do it anymore. I used to do that all the time. I mean, like before I had kids and, you know, in the wintertime with Lake of the Ozarks, I'm sure most everybody here knows if you want to, you know, if I'm going to be sitting around trying to get a hold of somebody at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday in January, that's not going to be very good prospecting. So a lot of times we would just go, and what we would do is we would fish from point A to point B. Well, the next time we fish is we fish from point B to point C. Well, the next time we fish point C to point D. And you literally are fishing everything in between. And make a long story short, I would identify schools, literally schools of big ones. Like, they don't do it anymore, so that's why I'm telling you about it. Or they haven't in 2 decades. But you would literally identify these schools of them. So I knew where there was 10 schools of, you know, 4-pound plus fish. Well,
And that was from your graph or actually from?
no, that was from fishing.
From
That's from
fishing?
fishing, and we
Yeah.
need to stay on that because
Yeah.
I think the whole world's getting lost in this electronics game.
I love it.
But so you would be fishing all of this stuff. So I knew I had 10 spots, and what I would do is I'd fish those 10 spots, and sure enough, one of them would fire up, and maybe it'd be spot 1. And as you kind of go through here, you kind of get a feel for the setup. You kind of get a feel for what's right. The wind's coming in, hitting this spot a little better. The light's hitting it a little better. Whatever the case may be, you're going to take 10 spots. You're going to narrow them down to about 4 spots that give you confidence. Well, we'd fish one spot, and all of a sudden, boom, you catch one. Then you catch one. Then you catch one. Then you catch one. Then you catch one. Make a few casts, don't catch anything more. Pull up the trolling motor, and boom, you're going straight to spot number 5.
Right.
Right? And then all of a sudden, you're throwing in there. Boom, you'll catch them. You'll catch them. You'll catch them. You'll catch them. It's always fascinated to me how you can talk to any of us about our experiences, and we can all talk about when do they bite, right? That's what I always ask. If you want to know the best questions to ask, when do they bite and how deep they are?
Right.
I mean, I don't care what area of the lake you're on. I don't care what lure you're using. If you can tell me when do they bite and how deep they are, I'm going to figure the rest of it out. Man, I can be honest with you. You know, about 10 o'clock, man, that light switch went off, and I mean, they were going, well, how deep were they? It seemed like they were at about 12. Okay. Now I know I'm going to start prospecting in that 10 o'clock, you know, that time frame. I know when to start prospecting that. Well, Bill knew when they were kind of biting, and so we kind of worked that into the fabric of our strategy.
Yeah.
And we were able to go through there, and we caught a limit early. And that's the other thing too is
Were
if
they
you,
related to structure?
yeah, they were related to structure and cover both. What's interesting about it, and I'm guilty about this, is I've really turned into a spot fisherman within a pattern. So if I know that they're in brush piles and 12 foot of water halfway back to the coves, then I'm gonna start running 12-foot brush piles halfway back into coves. Okay, if they're on the flats, then they're on the flats. If they're on the channel side, they're on the channel side. And very little do I mix something else in, especially because if I'm getting some sort of positive feedback, right? But you really miss a lot of opportunities sometimes like that. So like for instance, there's one stretch, it was one of our best 3 stretches, and there was one stretch where we have been fishing, and it's got some brush on it. But what's interesting about it, it's got some rock on it too. And what's interesting is that we were catching, you know, we were fishing. I mean, it was kind of refreshing because, I'm fishing with my son all the time, and so we'll just go fishing, and it's kind of fun, but I'm really like, okay, we need to be out here, throwing it on that line right there to kind of hit that. And it was kind of refreshing because you're just fishing, and usually this time of year, if it's not coming over a limb, like every cast, I feel like it's a wasted cast. But I'm here to tell you, Sunday it was not like that. Them shad were in there, them rock was in there, there was cover in there, and you literally were just fishing, and you might zap one here, you might zap one there. You'd really hone in when you got to the brush pile, you might zap one there, and then you just kind of fished around. And then you turn the boat around and make another pass. Well, your next pass, you're coming through at a different angle as the pass before. So it's like this rock over here, maybe 20 yards of rock, we might be catch 2 or 3 keepers off of. That brush pile, we might have caught 1 or 2 keepers off of. The next stretch of rock, we might have caught a couple keepers off of. So it was really kind of interesting how we just went fishing. And I've seen that before in pro-ams because I'll be really, really focusing on hitting a piece of cover over here. And my co-angler, he's 19, or he's damn near 20 foot behind me, has no idea what I'm even throwing at, and he throws out over here on an errant cast and catches me. Well, yesterday,
Note to self.
yeah, note to self. Yesterday, for all of the, well, why was it like that? That lake was coming up. So when that lake comes up, they'll do one of two things, based on my experiences. I don't know for a fact. If I know for a fact, I'd be a billionaire and I wouldn't be here. We'd all be on my yacht somewhere. But what it seems like they do is they do one of two things. They scatter out, or they'll raise up in the water column. And those are the two things that I saw them do. Like, we throw that jig out there. Every fish we weighed in yesterday, I think, came on a jig. A Davenport jig, mind you. Same one that I've taken out of fish for 25 years, his mouth in the net. But we throw that bait out there, and a lot of times on the way down, you just, all of a sudden, you pick it up and one would already be on it. Like, it just hit it on the sink, you know what I'm saying? So you just really had to pay attention. But that was what's going on, is that lake level's coming up. So if you really want to know where those fish are, Aaron has a real nice side. If you go and you have a fishing experience, be like, man, that was weird. I caught them kind of here, and there. Really look at that tool and kind of see what that does based on your experience. And then maybe you can kind of see and forecast that in the future. And I guarantee it's for all fish. I guarantee it's for crappie. I guarantee it's for game fish anyways. But we just made cycles, and we just got lucky, and those fish were there where Bill found them, and they were, bigger than average. I think we had almost 20.48 pounds yesterday, and I had one that I sure would like to have seen, and Bill had one that he'd sure like to have seen. So I think there was a couple kickers we left on the table, but for the most part, fish clean. Probably caught 15, 20 keepers, and it was a great day, and they kind of bit all through the day. Yeah. Like in the morning, it was like violent how hard they would hit it. Like farm pond bass introduced to a lake. Like, it's how it felt. And then it kind of stopped for like a little bit, and then you're like, well, wait a second, things are getting weird, do we need to make an adjustment or whatever? And then all of a sudden there's like one here, two there, one here, two there. And it was like that for the rest of the day. So you constantly stayed engaged. But really caught everything on the Davenport jig. I mean, I hate to tell you how many bass I've seen with that thing. And it's, people look at it, and I don't know their perception. I think everybody makes some sort of brown, green tinsel combination. If you guys don't know what it is, it's brown with green, flash in it. Sometimes we might put our own tinsel in it or something like that if we're going to hand tie, or we're going to switch up the skirt or whatever. But, several. You can try to hold that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll talk fast. Are we live?
You're live.
Okay, all right. So anyways, I'm talking about this jig, okay? So this Davenport's jig, it's their brush, it's Chomper's brush jig. It's a great jig. It's unbelievably weedless. If you look at the back of it, if you look at where the line tie is, you never want to use a jig that's got a bunch of lead above and beyond that line tie, because whenever that comes out of that fish's mouth, that's the first thing that activates that fish's mouth, popping it open. So it's always going to have a clean pull through the fish's mouth, which means it's going to have a clean hookup. The other thing it has is it has a full rod is what it has, and it's a thin wire hook. It's a thin wire hook, and I'm telling you guys, I've seen it a million times. If you're structure fishing, if I'm flipping, I probably want a heavy wire hook because I don't want the hook to flex. But the thing about big hooks, two things or a couple things. Number one, the first thing I think of is big hole, right? Big hooks, big hole. Number two is it takes tons of penetration to be able to get through it. Like, this little hook will get in that fish's mouth. Well, most all of them yesterday, I don't know what it is they were eating, but it must have looked just like them, because I'm telling you, when it jumped, all you could see was the line coming out of the corner of its mouth. You couldn't even see the jig. And make a long story short, it penetrates pieces of the fish's bone that I've never seen a hook go through. Right? That penetration factor. There's a reason why needles are thin and narrow when they stick them in your arm, because it's easy to penetrate. Same thing about this. It's just like a little needle that comes through there and gets them. I mean, there's a ton of great jig companies that are out there, but Bill has always done.
What kind of trailer does Bill like? Does he like? Is it different times of year? Like,
yeah.
Sometimes something that's got a little paddle to it, and sometimes.
Yeah. That's if there's. First of all, Bill has a sense of feel and a sense of trigonometry in his brain like I've never seen another man have. I'm serious. There could be 3 sticks in a 50-yard stretch in 18 foot of water, and I guarantee you he can sit there in one spot and hit all 3 of them. There's that limb right there, you know? And it's just one of those things where he's unhuman, first of all, right? I mean, the guy is unbelievable. I mean, okay, I hold my boat here and I throw it on that line. Okay, there it is. I mean, you could blindfold him, stand him upside down on his head, spin him around, stand him up in your boat, take his front grab, or you got to tell him how deep it is. Take the front grab, 23, okay, 23 and a half right there. There it is. Get the net. I mean, it's just, the guy's unbelievable. Isn't he? He's unbelievable.
When I fished with him for 10 years, he would tell me, we don't need a net, or we need a net when the fish would bite.
Yeah. Oh,
Not-
yeah.
Not after you hook him,
Yeah.
when it bit.
No, you're right. I can go on and on about talking about Bill about stuff like that. You're right. Crazy stories about this guy, but they're true. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. But what he does that I think is extraordinary is he'll switch it up. Like all of a sudden, like he'll get down in his bag and he'll be like, and he'll put something else on. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, oh, I'm gonna try this for a little bit, you know. I think they need a little more flash, or like I need more vibration, or I need more kick, or I need more something. There's about 6 or 7 jig trailers that he always got on. One of them is the twin tail trailer.
Right.
I mean that's just, it's something about this time of year. Those shad, their movements are fast and the paddles are fast, and it's just one of those things. I think that's kind of what's going on there. But yeah, he switches it up a lot.
Yeah.
He sure does.
And I know when I have fished with him before, he'll switch up from a jig to a worm.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
If they go to biting that jig, though, you can rest assured he ain't gonna throw something.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if he zaps a big one on it, and that's my job in team tournaments. He's been the jig guy, I've been the plastic guy.
Right.
Right, and it's really, really worked out great. And there's people like that know us really, really well, joke about it, and they literally, I had a buddy ask him if I was gonna throw the jig,
Yeah.
and after about the 3rd time I grabbed the net, I was throwing the jig.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there was you couldn't see it. And so it was one of those things that I did that. I'd say most of the fish were all in about, they'd be as shallow as 8, and they'd be as deep as about 25.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we had going on there.
Points, creek channel banks, anything in particular?
Yeah, there were some swings. There were some swing banks. They weren't on the points. They stopped generating current.
Right.
The lake was coming up, so I think those fish scattered and kind of got off their highway and kind of got parked up on something,
Yeah.
just kind of hang out and chill. Shad in all of these locations, and it was bright sunny day. It was a perfect brush pile day.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really was.
Cool.
So it was really cool.
Now, I'm just curious because I've read some reports, but don't know. I mean, talking about brush pile fish is this time of year also, as I'm watching your son work a frog across this pond back here. That's so cool.
He'll sling it. He likes
I love
slinging
it.
frog.
Is you can crank a crankbait
Yeah.
around brush and over the top of brush.
Yeah.
Did you try that at all yesterday?
Yeah, I cranked
Any
a
good
couple.
on that?
I cranked a couple.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is the water's got a little bit of color to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a real heavy green. Like it's green, but you can see maybe 2.5, 3 foot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just a real fertile, perfect color, cranking color. And I
Right.
did crank a couple on
Yeah.
for
Cool.
sure.
Yeah.
And I think those fish kind of get set up and get weird, and so it's a good way to cover water.
Yeah. Cool.
But
As we move into the end of August and into September, what will change with the pattern, or what will you be looking for in terms of any change in pattern?
I think, and I absolutely may be wrong, but I think this is going to be the year that some of the deep boys finally put some knots on the heads of some of them shallow boys. Because I'm telling you, there's been so much current coming through here, and now all of a sudden they've shut it off.
Right.
And we kind of already gone through some, I call it split, right? Somewhere around July, September, you kind of get a split, and that's where a third of the fish will go shallow, a third of the fish will go deep, and then there's another third that'll just kind of work their way with a migration somewhere in between. I think we've started the split already, but I'm here to tell you right now, the way that this lake has been going with so much current the last several years, there hasn't really been a need for those fish to get deep.
Right.
Now all of a sudden here we are in August, and that current is done.
Right.
And there's a lot of shad that are still deep, and I'm hoping that they stay deep. I really want them to stay deep because they're not as easily caught. Right? I'm not saying shallow fish are easy to catch, but they're damn sure easier than deep ones.
Right.
You know? And so that's that. Yeah, I got a question, man.
What do you consider in deep when you say that?
Great question.
And then, what's the thermocline got to do with your depth?
Yeah, so typically the thermocline is where they'll actually get set up, but I think we might be a little bit past that time for that thermocline to get set up. I didn't see it. I've had people tell me it's about 28 foot right now. I don't know if that's true or not. It's what I've been told. It sounds a little deep to me. Usually end of July, middle of August, it'll get somewhere around the 18 foot mark. It's typically where it built in. So when I say deep, I'm talking about 18 to 25. Now there's a whole nother level of fish that's 30 foot plus, but they're typically not the winners, right? So what I'm saying is the bigger fish will be, 12 to 18 foot or less than 4 is where they'll be. And so but typically that thermocline is where they'll set. Like that's where they want to be because that's where the change happens. So they'll want to be where that thermocline. I mean, we used to sink, before we had all this crazy flooding and everything that comes through Truman, we would have real thermoclines set up here, hardcore ones. I mean, you had to swim down to 15 foot to feel the difference because it felt like bathwater above it. And we used to sink brush piles in 15 foot and 18 foot and 20 foot. And it was all based on where that thermocline got. If that thermocline got to 18, by God, we were fishing 18 foot brush piles and thundering them because the vast majority of the forage population was there. And I'm not saying we haven't gone through some of that, in that split. That split is part of its poor oxygen. Some of them shad get up, some of them fish get up. We probably got a bluegill spawn getting ready to happen again on this next moon. So it's like there's a lot of things. There's plenty of food shallow. There's some color in the water. But I honestly, my gut tells me that the deep fishermen are going deep, the 15 to 25 footers. Those guys, I think, are going to be in the winter circle more this fall than they have in years past. Because this time last year and this time the year before, there was 35,000 CFS running through here.
Right.
Now there's not. And Truman's low, so everything's going to settle in, and they're going to get on a number, and hopefully I can figure out what that number is.
Yeah, Marcus, do you think that will be, as we look, based on your theory there, that'll be offshore structure related, brush related?
Rock and brush both.
Rock and brush both, and is that points, channel swings, secondary points?
All the above. So what you really want to do is you really want to watch and see where the shad migration is kind of held up. Mm-hmm. So if you'll just get in the middle of the cove, get your boat plumb straight in the middle of the cove, okay, and get over about 40 foot of water, somewhere about a third of the way back, get in the middle and just start idling back. You go 35 foot, 30 foot, 25 foot, 20 foot, 15 foot. All of a sudden, everywhere around you is nothing but shad balls, okay? When you get to 25, whenever you get to like 15 foot and you go in the very back third of that creek or that bay or that pocket and there is no shad, there is no reason to be fishing back there.
Got
okay? That's just like, it's just that simple.
Right.
Believe it or not, I'm not saying you can't flip the biggest fish of the whole tournament back there because it lives back there. But I'm saying that's an easy way to kind of tell what depth range. That's what I look at. Or like whenever I get out there in open water, my boat's sitting, if I'm off a ledge, my boat's sitting in 45, 35 foot of water, and I see that bait really wadded in there in that 18 foot range.
Yeah.
It's not by accident. They could be in any depth they want to. The last 3 places I've been, they've all been in 18. I'm going to start looking for some 18 foot stuff.
Got it.
Is what I'm
Cool.
going to do.
That's good stuff.
Pretty simple. Sounds simple.
Well, no, I get it, man. That's a PhD in fishing right there, bud. You won a tournament and won hundreds of others, including the All-American.
Yeah, no, I'm paying attention to everything.
Yeah.
On that stuff, and once you start seeing that information get consistent,
Yeah.
there's a reason for it. I don't need to know what it is, but there's a reason for it, and I'm going to go look for the things that happen with that.
Yeah.
Is what I'm going to do.
Well, that's, like I preface this is, there's your NFL champions and your, World Series champions, and a lot of times there's just a small margin between success and not success. And are there any other things as it relates to how you go about fishing as it relates to your margin of success?
Yeah. I think first of all, Bob, when you start talking about winning, I don't know how many casts you make in a day, but it's a lot. But the difference between first place and second place is 1 cast. The difference between first place and 10th place is 2 casts. So everything you're doing, it's really about 1 or 2 key fish, right? Now sometimes you can put the hammer down and
Right.
you know your first 5 weighed 25, your next 5 weighed 23.5, your next 5 weighed 20. You're gonna have those days, but I'm here to tell you right now, when you go to winning, if you look at it, the difference is 1 or 2 casts in a day, okay? So what does that mean? That means focus, right?
Right.
Focus. Focus is if you said, what's the difference between whatever sport you want, whatever region you want, whatever fishing you want, you business owners, sales goals, anything, the difference between the top and the middle is a whole nother level of focus, right? So if you can maintain that level of focus, you will be a hell of a lot better. Because once you go through, first of all, people always talk about, won't you come teach me how to fish? I can't, the way I do it, I can't teach you how to fish. You have to feel how to fish. And the only way you're gonna feel how to fish is going through years and years of good decisions and years of bad decisions. And then something just takes over. It's that 6th sense in you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I gotta make an adjustment. Or all of a sudden something will just catch my eye and I'll just make 1 cast and catch like the biggest fish of the day. I mean, it's just experience, really.
Yeah.
And part of that experience, for all these people out here that are young or younger, I guess it's not even an age thing. If you wanna learn how to win, you need a mentor. You need a
Yeah.
mentor. I mean, Bill Davenport showed me how to win. You can go do all that stuff you want, and you can do all that flashy stuff, and you can go do all that cool stuff over there, but they ain't winning. Let me show you how to win. And he showed me, he said, hey, this is what we're gonna do. It's a 5-fish limit, so we ain't trying to catch a bunch of 13 inchers. We ain't trying to catch a bunch of 2-pounders. We're trying to catch 4-pound plus fish. Here's how you do it.
Yeah.
So all day long, Bill and I might fish for 5 bites. And it takes a different level of focus to do that.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things
And
where,
confidence.
Yeah, and confidence. You got to have the confidence. But those are the things that I think about. The real separating, the number one common denominator is focus. But I also think, just like anything, you have to be shown how to win.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, think about it. Michael Jordan, okay, one of the best champions in the world. I guarantee you, when Michael Jordan was 9, he was on the best AAU team ever. When he was 11, he was on the best AAU team ever. In college, they're winning. I mean, that's that piece that, like, you have to figure out that piece of winning and surround yourself with those mentors. And then you also have to surround yourself. And part of winning is, I think, positive mental attitude. If you go out there and be like, man, I don't think we're going to win, I guarantee you're not.
Right.
I guarantee you're not. And my mentality is that competitive fishing is, I don't care if first place is an empty beer can. I want it. I just want it. It doesn't matter. Now, it doesn't mean that if I don't get it, I'm mean, or, because I believe firmly you win with grace and you lose with grace. But it's just, there's just difference in that. And I'm not saying I'm different than anyone else or better or worse or whatever. I'm just saying what I think about, because I get asked that a lot. What makes you different? I don't know what makes me different. I know that I have, the only variables I can think of is I have somebody who absolutely paved the way for me. I have a clear understanding through sales and mentoring and family and all of those things, what focus can do for you. I mean, that's just it. And then the positive attitude. Those 3 things right there are pretty. I guarantee you go through the list of everyone that you want to find is successful in whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Those 3 things, they can check the box.
Yeah. And I know for you, and you mentioned this with Bill, you work at it too. I mean, I know all of the above what you mentioned matters, but then it's that desire to win and that maybe competitive nature, whatever. Or you're just going to go work at it. You're going to go figure it out. You're going to go figure it out. And until you do, you're not getting off the water.
No, yeah, I've many times been the first one in, the last one out. multiple days in a row, and it's a lot of work. It really is. And like, you know, for instance, you know, you mentioned, yeah, okay, so we win on Sunday, right? Get lucky, win on Sunday. You know, there's a lot of people, I think, that would really just be like, okay, cool, we know what we're gonna do on Saturday. The way my brain works is, man, I gotta take those ingredients, and I gotta come over here in this area, and I gotta come over here in this area, and I gotta prospect even more and harder and deeper through the whole entire spider web of what it takes to find these suckers, because now all of a sudden the light bulb's gone off.
Right.
You know, there's red meat in the freaking lion's den. I'm like, man, I gotta work even harder now.
It's like Marcus and Bill won, so this must be what they're doing, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just a different level of motivation. You know, the old saying, "Success breeds success." It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Marcus, when you go to lakes around the country and you've had really great success, and if you were to talk to somebody, you know, coming to the lake here, whether tournament fisherman or, you know, weekend angler, you know, you've gone around the country and have figured out lakes that you perhaps have never fished before, or maybe fished once or twice. You won the All-American on a lake you never fished before. What is it that you're looking for? I mean, these are big lakes. I mean, how do you break down a Lake of the Ozarks, or how do you go break down? What do you do to put yourself in that position?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you know, it's probably hard to answer when you're going through it, but it's easy to answer once you've kind of come through some of it.
Yeah.
I think number one, I have an unbelievable network of friends that are completely open with me, that care about me, that want to see me win as much as I like to. So if I'm going to a regional area, maybe I've never been there before, but I may call, you know, Terry Bolton, right? Or somebody like that and say, hey, Terry, what do you know about this lake? Typically, what's a good area? You know, so on and so forth.
Where should I start?
Yeah. Take a dart.
Where's the fish and tell website?
Yeah. Well,
just kidding.
That's the other thing too. No, that's true. I mean, now if I'm a college kid, I'm bassandbob.com, fishing, telling out, and I'm looking at web reports, this, that, and the other. But remember, to me, I'm a feel kind of guy, so I like to get into an area that feels good. Right? It looks good. It's not overwhelming. It's predictable. I can relate to it, and then go from there. And that's kind of really. So I think it's technology. I think it's networks of friends, and then after that, I think it's sweat off your brow.
Right.
I mean, you're just shoveling and digging and doing everything you can. And I can't tell you how many times that I thought I might have had something that maybe might work, and the meeting's at 6:30 and everybody else is pulling out at 2, and you got to be off the water before the meeting starts.
Right.
So it's at 4:30 that the light bulb goes off, and I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, you know, it's just like anything. It's repetition, you know, and you got to remember that a fish is a fish is a fish, right? Tell me what kind of food they like to eat. Tell me what type of year it is from a seasonal pattern. Is there any current or any other extremities outside that could affect any one or two? And then get me in an area of the lake that's got them.
Yeah.
And we're going to figure it out. Or at least I believe we will, you know.
Marcus, we're coming up into probably, I'll call it late fall, and then into the winter. You know, you're great all seasons of the year, but as we move deeper into the fall, you talked about the patterns as it relates to finding the bait fish and anything and that type of thing, which is brilliant. And then we'll move into the winter time. What are the type of things that you would try and key on when it comes to, I'll call it late fall, and then the transition from late fall to winter?
Yeah, I think summertime, or I'm going to say early fall, is pretty self-explanatory. You can see the bait, you can do everything. Then when you get into later fall, what will happen is that bait will really, really get set up on a finite pattern. Okay, like let's say for instance, October-ish, November-ish, October-ish, there may be a bunch of bait out there in you know, that 10 to 15 foot deep range, but you may also look up there on the rocks and see gizzard shad tailing on the rocks. Okay, and so what I think about that is I think about October. I think about kind of the same things. It's brush piles, it's rock, it's slow rolling a spinnerbait, it's throwing a crankbait, it's throwing a jig, it's whatever your confidence bait is. Anything less than 70 degrees, I typically get away from plastics It's weird, it's my brain. I'm not saying it works, I'm just saying that's the way my brain works. In the spring, I don't play with plastics till I get to 55 on the warm up. In the fall, I quit plastics somewhere around 70. I start thinking about it.
Right.
I don't want to go to a jig, don't want to go to hard bait, don't want to crank them, something like that. Cover more water. They just get a little more predictable, I think, in the fall, because you don't have bait everywhere. You have bait here and up there, and up there you can see them tail walking, so you can. That's where the top water stuff comes in. Your walking baits, your ploppers, and buzz baits, and all of that stuff. And then what happens is those 12-foot shad, they slide out a little bit deeper, and then those gizzards that are up there on the rocks, they'll come out and they'll actually suspend. And I think that's what happens a lot of times. You go out there and you have an unbelievable day of topwater fishing, and they're big ones and they're everywhere and it's unbelievable. Then you're like, where did they go? Well, they're sitting there. Imagine like if you know, I always talk about like trying to catch a stray cat. You know, if I've got a back wall to that cat, I have a better odds of catching that cat. Well, that back wall to that bass is the shoreline. So they know that if one of those shad's gonna mess up, it's gonna have to come either by me or I know exactly where to go and get it, right? So that's the back wall. Well, what happens is everyone has a great day topwater fishing. Well, then that shad have moved off that back wall. Now they're in that 8, 10, 12 foot of water range, and the bass don't set up the same way for them, right? So that's kind of what I think about. Is I think about the fall, they're gonna kind of get a little bit. They'll be super shallow. I'm talking about strictly shallow fish. They're super shallow now. They're super shallow in September. They're super shallow in October. And in November is when they start getting 6, 8, 10, 12 foot deep again. And then that's where, so they relate to the bottom there. And then in December, they'll come out and they'll suspend.
Right.
Is what they do. So that's why all of a sudden they're suspending jerk baits,
Right.
or some of the crank baits or something like that kind of come into play. So that's kind of just, always think about where are those shad in relation to that bank. And if they're up on the bank, they're going to be shallow up on them. But as they kind of come out and suspend, so will the bass.
Good stuff. Marcus, just a couple more questions. I'll open it up and we'll let you go shopping. So I think a lot of people know or feel like you're predominantly a glaze fisherman to the dam, gravois, all that.
Yeah.
I know you have fished all over this lake with tremendous success, and anglos and the river and all that type of thing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about when certain areas of the lake are, kind of the best to go fish, where it's like, man, I know I'm going to go fish the gravois today, but I'm probably going to get my ass kicked up the river or anything like that?
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. So I'd say that.
Or not that you will, but
Yeah, right. No, I understand the philosophy there. I'd say you're right. I'd say that from an overall standpoint, I spend the vast majority of my time from the dam to the gravelway back and including the glades. And the reason is because there's a ton of diversification in that area for what I like to do.
Yeah.
If I want to catch them in 2 foot of water, I can go do it. And then all of a sudden, if I have to make a change like that, I don't need to make a long run to do it. I just need to point my trolling motor and go out the other way.
Yeah.
However, I have one up in Iowa, and I have one up
I know you have.
and
Yeah.
all of those things. And what I would say to that, from a recreational fishing side of things, I like the Iowas right now, August, September, October. I don't know the cover. I haven't spent a lot of time making cover up there. I don't know it structurally wise, other than like in June and things like that. So I haven't really spent the time to really get that. And the other thing that's always been a roadblock in my brain is if there's 2 or 3 other boats that know what's going on, all of a sudden you're confined and you're worried about fishing behind somebody. You know, if I'm fishing gravel points in the gravelway, well, I can fish 7,342 of them.
Right.
If I'm fishing gravel points in Iowa, I can fish 26.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to go down here and do this, right?
Yeah.
So that's that. The Osage River, I think, is probably the most underestimated Osage River. It has been in forever. I've caught more big ones in the last 2 or 3 years up the Osage River. I'm calling this Osage River, let's say 55 plus.
Yeah.
Up in that area, I've caught more big ones in the last year or 2 than I have in the last 20.
Yeah.
Something about all that current coming through Lake of the Ozarks when we're all down here pounding on these schools of big water really set those fish up there in a non-pressured environment with a high food forage base, and they're freaking behemoths. They're big. Now they get weird and they do stuff, and you know, and you don't know, they're kind of unpredictable. And once again, you know, if I got 5 or 6 really good stretches of docks, I go up there and inevitably there's a boat on every one of them, right?
Right.
'Cause you can see it. I mean, these, you know, if you're gonna fish main lake docks, here's the main lake docks,
Right.
you know, that you can fish. So,
Cool.
but it's unbelievable right now. I mean, I'm trying to find a way to get up there this week. I was going to, but then we ended up doing good on Sunday. So now I'm gonna try to figure out a way to go down below and catch them. But
Cool.
it's on my radar. Like
Yeah.
that place is it's a whole different world. If you guys have never experienced it, you need to go and check it out. Just really pay attention where you're going, because you get above the 60 and you kind of got to know where you're going. It's not terrible, mostly mud, so it's not that
I've
not
caught,
big a deal.
this doesn't mean a whole lot compared to Marcus Sykora, but I probably, of the 10 or so 7-pounders I've caught, at least 7 of them have been in the river area.
They're-
Fishing with Wayne,
Yeah,
of course.
there's some monsters up there.
Yeah.
And those are and I'm telling you right now, there's more big fish in that upper river area
Yeah,
than I've ever seen in my life right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
You know, and that's why, you know, from a tournament side of things, what I always thought was, if you could win with 14 pounds, go to the river. If you could win with 14 pounds, go to the river. Because typically you can go through 7, 8, 9, 10 keepers and you can catch you 14 pounds, right? You may lose a big one, but you can catch 14. Where down below, you can't catch anything, or they're more fickle or whatever.
yeah,
But now you can catch you can catch 14 in 3 flips up there right
yeah.
now.
Appreciate that, Marcus. Before I open it up to questions, which I will do here in a minute, we're just about out of time. I know that you are extremely particular about your sponsors.
Yeah.
You know, people are throwing sponsorships at you every other day. Tell us about some of your key sponsors and why those are important to you and what it is you believe about their products.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Well, I think you know, I'm a relationship kind of guy. I'm a loyal kind of guy. If you'll help me, I'll help you kind of guy. And I think there's a lot of that in the industry that's kind of been forgotten on both ends of the coin there. I think that you know, one thing that I've always appreciated is, like I said earlier, I really try to do everything for other people, right? So Bass and Bob, you've always been there for me.
You've always been there for me.
Yeah, well, and you've been great, and that's what it's all about. We help each other. I mean, my gosh, there's a bunch of them. I mean, 6 Cents, before anybody knew what 6 Cents was, it was some college kid who was painting baits in the garage and doing a damn good job of it. Now look at 6 Cents Fishing, it's everywhere. And they deserve all the success, you know, but they're a big player. Zoom is an enormous one. You know, first time I ever heard Andy Morgan say it, it's just stuck with me. I don't buy them by the pack, I use them by the pound. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just, Zoom is just absolutely unbelievable. Chompers has been for forever. Right now we have, we're making some moves on some new stuff. Pro Guide batteries, that's something that's always been there. TH Marine has always been there. I mean, we have one of the big rep groups is right here, and they've always been fantastic, and I believe in their stuff. And you know, it's just everybody that I have.
Yeah. Are you liking your Camus boat?
Boatworks,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I love my Camus. You know, I've been an Earl Bent's guy. I've been an Earl Bent's boat for, you know, probably 13, 14 years in a row, and now I'm back in an Earl Bent's boat. So it feels like I just, his number ain't changed. You know, I mean, nothing's changed. I did, hey, what's going on? How you guys doing? What's shaking? What's new? What's coming down the pipe? So, and Boatworks is, guys, I think Boatworks is probably the most, what I would call, as far as like that whole boat side of things, is really the most pivotal. I think that's where you're going to get service from, where you're going to get somebody to stand behind something in a time of need. Where are you going to go? And the fact that they have the team that they've collaborated with, from their wrenches to the front of the house sales guys, they really, really do care. And that's the ultimate litmus test. If you can find some place where they have a true interest in your success, then they're going to be a natural fit. And they have Kim in this area, and they have done a fantastic job. And you know, we pouted their group too. Pulse Fishing Lures, I don't know how many people know that, but that, you know, my boy Todd Goat out there, he's doing everything he can. If you guys never checked out Pulse Fish Lures, they're kind of a really, really neat, like a vibrating jig that you can throw, scrounger style. They're really, really good, but you know, I'm sure there's somebody I'm forgetting, I'm sorry, but
it's important.
They're the same people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about making the first move I've made on a sponsor in 5 years.
Wow, yeah,
And it's just
means a lot, yeah,
It's because I care about them as much as they care about me.
right,
And that's what it is. And I honestly think, and I'm going to say this because I've said it before, and some people can be scratching their head going, what the heck's this guy talking about? But I honestly feel like unless somebody is being a true sponsor of yours, right, whether it's product, whether it's service, or whether it's money, I believe those are the people that they deserve signage.
yeah,
If,
Yeah.
if not, then the
Yeah.
only thing you're doing is watering the deal down for you later on down the road.
Agreed.
Because why would they do anything for me when they have 100 other people out there that they're doing nothing for?
yeah, right,
And it's just one of those things where I think that's some of a lot of what's going on right now in the industry from a negative mark.
yeah,
Is fishermen have been very, very loyal and companies have been very, very loyal. But now all of a sudden, fishermen are just like, I'm gonna go over here and do this, or I'm not gonna satisfy my commitment. And then the companies are going, well, why would I do anything for you when I have all of these other people doing it for nothing?
right, yeah,
And so we all need to really improve. You know, if you're gonna be sponsored by somebody, do a great job for them. Go help them at a boat show, bring them a buyer. You know, try to do whatever you can if you believe in their products. And if you don't believe in their products, don't
right,
fly the flag.
right, yeah,
And it's pretty simple, you know,
Yeah.
but if you believe in the product, do what you can to help them, and in return, you should be helped back. If you're not helped back, stop helping them.
appreciate that, Marcus, good stuff. Before we shut down, any questions for the champ? He's pretty good, isn't he? Marcus, thank you so much. Good luck this weekend in the Bass and Bob tournament. Good luck this
Back and Bob, gotta be there. Gotta be there this weekend. Summer sizzling.
Good luck this year with your FLW tournaments and your Major League or your Toyota Series and your Major League Fishing BFLs.
Yeah.
And I know all of us here at Lake of the Ozarks would love for you one day to walk away from that insurance business, so we could see you on the tour and watch you on Major League Fishing, because I think you'd cause real problems for those guys. Appreciate you so much, Marcus.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, bud.